The other thing is, there is one sutta where the Buddha said that most human beings, after we pass away, most of us will go into the woeful plains, and few will be reborn as human beings or be reborn into the heavenly plains. And the Buddha was comparing in India during the Buddha's time, about 2,500 years ago. The Buddha said, in India, those inaccessible places, the mountains, the high mountains and the deep forests, all those places which are not fit, they are much more than those habitable places like the towns and villages where people can live. Much less than those places which are inaccessible during the Buddha's time. So I would imagine, for example, out of 10 people, what the Buddha is trying to say, out of 10 people, when 10 people pass away, about 7 or 8 will be reborn into the woeful plains. Only 2 or 3 will be reborn back as human beings or will go to the heavenly plains. So from here, you should know that we are very lucky, we are indeed very fortunate to come into the Buddha's teachings, because we understand the Buddha's teachings about karma. Then we practice we do more good karma instead of evil karma. Then we try not to be like the ordinary people. The ordinary people are like what we call putujanas. Most of them will be reborn into unpleasant places, woeful plains of rebirth. Now I haven't spoken about karma. I like to deal with another topic, which concerns merit for the dead. Nowadays, there are people who always, when their relative passes away, some of them spend a lot of money to cultivate merit for the dead. Now, during the Buddha's time, on this Chengbeng Jit, All Souls Day, Chinese people will go to the cemetery, they clean up the cemetery, they put out some food, some food offerings, and then they pray and offer this food to the dead. But the difference here is that we Chinese, after praying and offering, we take back all this food and go home and eat. Now, the Brahmin practice is slightly different. After they have offered all these things, they will burn them, burn all the food, and then hope that their relative gets the food. So one day, when Brahmin came to ask the Buddha, he said, we do these offerings to the dead, and he asked the Buddha, does our dead relatives really get these offerings? And then the Buddha said, it depends. The Buddha said, it depends on where they are reborn. If our dead relative is reborn in heaven, they won't get it. And they also don't need it. If they are reborn as human beings, they also won't get it. If they are reborn as animals, they won't get it. If they are reborn in hell, they won't get it. Only if they are reborn as ghosts, then they can get it. But the Buddha didn't explain why. But we can think and perhaps guess it's because ghosts, when they are reborn as ghosts, they might be hungry, they might be cold because they might not have clothes to wear. Then they go here, they go there, they are suffering, nobody wants to help them. So they'll think, who can help me? Then they'll think of their close relatives, maybe their sons, their daughters, someone close to them. Then they come back, they come back. Ghosts live near human beings. And sometimes if they are suffering very badly, they might make you dream, or they might even make you see them. Then, if that happens, then we should do merit for them. In our Theravada teachings, it's very simple. In our Theravada teachings, we teach that there are two main things that the ghost needs. One is food, the other one is clothing. So we offer this food and a robe or a piece of cloth to, like for example, monks, and then we transfer the merit to our dead relatives. Now before, like for example, if you're going to do the offering tomorrow, I would suggest that at night, perhaps you would light incense, and then you inform your dead relatives, and even all other beings. You say, tomorrow I'm going to do some offerings of food, or robe, or any other thing, and I want to share this merit with you all. And then tomorrow you do the offering, and after having done the offering, then you again inform them that you have already done the offering and you like to share the merit with them. Sometimes some people might not have a dead, maybe at a particular time, none of your relatives passed away, and yet you might have a dream where a ghost comes to you for help, or you might see a ghost. Now, it might be that this ghost was related to you in the past, not necessarily this life. Perhaps in your previous life, that ghost was related to you, and then you are reborn as a human being, and you've forgotten about him or her. But that ghost still remembers you, that's why it comes to you for help. So, if we dream or we see this kind of beings, then we try to help them by doing some merit. A few months ago in Penang, somebody told me that his brother who died a few years ago in an accident entered the sister's body. The sister came back from KL and they were in Penang. Then this ghost entered the sister's body and said his name, and said he was very hungry and his stomach was very painful, and he asked for them to help him and asked for the brother's name. So this brother came to ask me for advice. So I told him to do some dana a few times, but each time before he does the dana at night, to inform the relative so that he can come and share in the merit. So that is concerning merit for the dead. From here, you can see if our relative passes away, only if he or she is reborn as a ghost, there is a chance of helping. So the best thing is, if we care for our relative, before they pass away, we should help them. Now, in doing merit, there are 4 fields of merit. If you do offerings to 4 types of people, there's great merit. One is the Buddha, but nowadays you can't do offerings to the Buddha because the Buddha has gone to Nibbana. The second one is virtuous monks, Aryas, those who have understood the Dhamma, those who keep the precepts. Third one is your mother. Fourth one is your father. Now these 4 types of persons, if you make offerings to them, you would gain great merit. Now the Buddha also said in another sutta, our parents have done a lot for us. So to repay our parents' kindness is not easy. The Buddha said even if you were to look after your parents for 100 years, to the extent of carrying them on your shoulders for 100 years, and you really looked after them, still you would not be able to repay your parents' kindness. The Buddha said to repay our parents' kindness, there are 4 ways. One is, if our parents do not have confidence or trust or faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, we bring him or her to understand the Buddha's teaching so that he or she, our parents, have faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. That's the first way we can repay our parents' kindness. The second way is, if our parents do not practice the precepts, do not keep the precepts, then we teach them to keep the 5 precepts, at least the 5 precepts. Now, the third one is, If our parents are very stingy, they don't like to do charity, they don't like to do dana, offerings, then we teach them to like to do offerings, to make it a habit of making offerings. The fourth one is if our parents have no wisdom, then we teach them the Buddha's Dhamma. Either we introduce them to the Buddha's teachings by books or by tapes, or by bringing them to listen to Dhamma talk by monks. Then there's the fourth way, we can repay our parents' kindness. Because these four ways, if we teach them to practice these four things, they will be reborn into very good places of rebirth, either into the heavenly realms or at least into the human realm. So that is repaying the parents' kindness. So before our parents pass away, if they have wrong views and all that, it's better that we teach them to correct the wrong views, teach them to make offerings and dana, charity, etc. Instead of waiting for them to pass away, then perhaps they might ask you to buy these paper houses and paper credit cards and all that rubbish. So in the second case, you are wasting a lot of money and you are not getting much out of it. Whereas if you had taught your parents before their death to use their money constructively in better ways, then they would earn much more merit from it. So that concerns merit for the dead. Now the last thing I'd like to talk about here is concerning vegetarianism. This is one of those issues that has been debated on for a long, long time, even from the Buddha's days. Now, in our Buddha's teachings, we find that if a person wants to practice vegetarianism, very good. If the person does it out of compassion, let's stop him from doing it. But on the other hand, the Buddha did say that if we want to eat meat, there is one kind of meat that we can eat. It's called, in Chinese, the san qing rou. That means meat with three conditions. Only if this meat has these three conditions can we eat it.
First condition is you did not see that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for you. Second condition is you did not hear that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for you. Third condition is you did not suspect that the animal was purposely or specifically killed for you.
Then if there are these three conditions, if you fulfill these three conditions, that means you don't have the karma of killing that being. You are not involved because you did not have any intention to kill that living being. Then you can take that meat. If we investigate our Theravada suttas and the Vinaya, the monks' disciplines, Chinese called the Li Chang and the Qing Chang, we find that there is quite a lot of evidence to show that the Buddha and his disciples ate meat with these three conditions. There are a few suttas. One of the suttas indicated that there was a general during the Buddha's days. He was a follower of the external sect ascetics who were vegetarians. And then, after he met the Buddha, he was converted to be a follower of the Buddha. He had strong confidence from listening to the Buddha's teachings that the Buddha was teaching the right Dhamma. So he invited the Buddha to his house for a meal, and then he served his meat to the Buddha. As soon as the external sect people heard about it, they spread the news all over that the Buddha was eating meat that was purposely killed for him. So when the general came to know of it, the general was very angry. Then he reported this to the Buddha. He said, even we are soldiers. Even for our own livelihood, we don't purposely kill the animal to eat. Then Then from this sutta, you can know that the Buddha and his disciples ate meat. And there's another sutta called the Jivakasita in the Majjhima Nikaya, where this king's physician called Jivaka, at that time he was not yet a follower of the Buddha, but he heard people say that the Buddha and his disciples ate meat that was purposely slaughtered for them. So he came to ask the Buddha and said, "Is it true? I hear you and your followers eat meat that is purposely killed for you." Then the Buddha denied it. The Buddha said, they only eat meat with these three conditions that I mentioned just now. Did not kill, did not ask somebody to kill, did not see, did not hear. So after that, in the sutta, after speaking to Jivaka Kumarabacha, the Buddha called his disciples and then told them about this, and also told them that if people offer them meat, they should make sure that fulfills these three conditions. Then only they can eat the meat. And there's another sutta I forgot to mention in the Sutta Nipata called the Amaganda Sutta, where the Buddha said one of the previous Buddhas, I forgot which one, Kassapa Buddha or one of the previous Buddhas before our Sakyamuni Buddha, he was a Brahmin. In spite of being a Brahmin, he ate meat, and he also allowed his disciples to eat this type of allowed meat with the three conditions. So one external ascetic came to scold the Buddha, said he ate, his mouth is defiled. So the Buddha answered that defilement is not in the mouth, defilement is in the mind. If you have a lot of evil thoughts, evil intentions, you have a lot of kilesas, defilements, that is real defilement, not in eating, not in what goes into the mouth. Sometimes people don't realize it's what goes out of the mouth that is more important, not what goes into the mouth. Whatever goes into the mouth ends up as shit. So that is in the suttas. Now, in the Vinaya, we find that there are precepts concerning this meat eating. In the Vinaya, monk's Vinaya, the Buddha said that a monk can eat ordinary meat, but not 10 types of meat. 10 types of meat were specifically mentioned by the Buddha as being not allowed. The first one was human meat. Why human meat? This one, there's a story, there's a real story to it in the Vinaya. There's a follower of the Buddha by the name of Suppiya. She's a lay follower, woman. And this Suppiya was a very staunch supporter of the Buddha. So she used to go to the monastery often to see whether the monks needed anything. One day she went to the monastery and she found that one of the monks was sick. And being knowledgeable, having followed the Buddha for a few years, she knew that monks were allowed a sick monk is allowed to drink clear meat soup if he's sick, so that it gives him some strength. So he talked to this monk and told the monk that since he was sick, she wanted to make clear meat soup to offer to him in the evening, and he agreed. So Suppiya went home and then asked the, slave or maid to go to the market and buy some meat. Now there are certain days in a year where meat is not sold in India, not in the market. So on that particular day, meat was not sold. So the maid came back and told Suppiya that no meat was available for sale. So Suppiya was very disappointed. She thought to herself, I have already promised this sick monk, to provide this clear meat soup for him. If I don't, he's sick, he needs it, and if I don't carry out my promise, then it will be tantamount to lying. So she thought to herself, after a while, she took the knife, she went into her bedroom, she cut a piece of flesh from her leg, and asked the maid to take it and cook it for the monk. So the maid, having made the soup, offered the clear soup to the monk to drink. Now in the evening, the husband came back, and then the husband found that Supriya did not come out to greet him as usual. So he went to the room and found Supriya sort of lying on the bed, and then he asked Supriya what was wrong, and then Supriya explained everything to him. Now the husband didn't get angry because he was also a very devoted follower of the Buddha. Instead, he was full of admiration for the wife, because he was thinking to himself, how many women can do this and cut her own flesh to make soup for a monk? So she had more admiration and love for the wife. So at night, he went to see the Buddha, and then he told the Buddha that he would like to invite the Buddha to his house the next morning for a meal. So the Buddha accepted. So at night, he asked the maid to prepare some food and all that. Then the Buddha came the next morning, and they provided the food for the Buddha. After the Buddha had taken his meal, the Buddha asked the husband, where is Supriya? I didn't see her. Then the husband said, she's not well in the room. So the Buddha said, cause her to come out. And the husband said, it's not convenient. She has difficulty walking. Then the Buddha said, you help her. You help her, bring her out. So the husband helped Supriya, and both of them came to see the Buddha. As soon as the Buddha saw Supriya, the wound was completely healed. So husband and wife was very happy. So the Buddha went back to the monastery and then asked the monk, the sick monk, he said, yesterday did Supriya make some soup for you? He said, yes. Then he asked the monk, do you know what soup you drank? The monk said, I don't know. Then the Buddha said, he took human flesh soup. Then the monk also got surprised. And then from there the Buddha called all the monks together and then told them that next time if people make soup for you, you should inquire what kind of meat it is. If it's human flesh, you should not accept it. So that's the first one. Now the second animal that's not allowed for a monk is elephant. Third one is horse. Now this elephant and horse, they normally belong to the king. So sometimes if a monk goes on pinbat on alms round, and then he's offered this elephant or horse meat, then he might be implicated in the theft. He might get involved people might accuse him of being involved in that crime. So for that reason, in order not to get into trouble with the king, the Buddha told his monks to find out if it is elephant meat and horse meat, not to take it. Now the others are wild animals. The Buddha said tiger, leopard, snake, bear, I think, and even horse. Dog meat. Now why did the Buddha tell them not to take this type of meat? Is because before the Buddha made this rule, the monks would go on alms round, they go to the villages, and sometimes these poor villagers, they go to the forest and kill the tiger or something for their own food. So happened the monk came along, then they offer some of this tiger flesh, cooked tiger flesh to the monk, and the monk unknowingly eats the flesh. After eating, the monk goes into the forest to meditate. Now when the monk goes to the forest to meditate, his sweat, he will emit this odor, this smell, this tiger flesh smell. So what happened is that the tiger will come and attack him, Or, for example, if he unknowingly took dog meat, then if he walk on the road, the dogs will chase him and bark at him and all that. So from there, the Buddha said, this type of meat should not be taken. So this is another instance in the Vinaya where we know that domestic animals were allowed by the Buddha, provided you have these three conditions. Now, and the other thing is there are certain real life stories in the Vinaya There's one story concerning the Arahant Upalavana, because the Vinaya gives the background to why the Buddha made these 227 precepts for monks in the Theravada. Every precept that was made had a history behind it.